One way that these different callbacks get invoked is through an int instruction. So that stands for interrupt. And the int instruction takes one argument, which is k, which is the index in this interrupt table. The k value of hex 80, that means system call. So slot 128 in this table, in other words. So when you have some machine code in a program that moves 2 into the register EAX, say, and then invokes the interrupt handler at slot 128 or hex 80, then whatever function is registered there starts running, and maybe the convention is that it looks in the EAX register to find out what's being requested to do as a system call. There is also a syscall function, syscall operation in the processor. It's the same idea. It doesn't quite go through this table, and it's a little faster, but it's the same idea. So we'll think about it this way. So what happens when we're in the user code as opposed to kernel code, that is code that anyone is able to run that's not in privileged mode, it's going along, it's executing a sequence of instructions in its normal control flow, and then just as it's executing instruction iCurrent, an exception happens. Maybe because iCurrent is an int instruction, or maybe something else happens to the state of the system that causes an exception to be raised. So if that exception is number k, either because k was provided to int or the meaning of the external event maps to number k, then the processor switches back into privileged mode and runs some kernel code to run the exception handler for k. Now that exception handler has some choices. It can choose to just give up, like maybe the interrupt corresponds to hardware going bad or something like that. The kernel code might recognize the exception as something it can just handle, and then it would restart the user code at the iCurrent instruction. So that's called a retry. Or the kernel might say, okay, whatever went wrong, that's fine, we can fix it up, but we don't need to try it again, and then resume at the next instruction. So in particular, what happens with the int call that's a syscall is that the kernel does whatever the system request is, and then it resumes at the very next instruction. We'll see some other examples for retry and abort.